For you to be a non-interventionist America first, it has to at least come with, and hey, we should cut Israel off. And we should not listen to Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, I'm sorry, that's just totally reasonable.
Or Keir Starmer or any of them.
That's right.
So recently, Dave Smith was on Tucker Carlson's podcast, and the two discussed U.S. foreign policy and recent foreign policy episodes in general, especially as they relate to Israel and the Middle East, and really the pitfalls of an interventionist Israel-first mentality that plagues so many people in the U.S. government on both sides of the political aisle. So let's watch and let's react. Like the video, subscribe to the channel.
Because look, here's the thing. If you do care about being America first, and you care about America not getting into another stupid catastrophic war in the Middle East, well, who's pushing us in that direction?
You're right.
And this is not a conspiracy theory. This is like totally out in the open, right? I mean, the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history is Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, right? Benjamin Netanyahu.
He does have the same mentality as John McCain, to defend Dave here.
Came to the U.S. Congress in 2002 and testified as a regional expert that we should go overthrow Saddam Hussein in Iraq because democracy will sweep the region. He then also said, in front of a congressional testimony, that we should overthrow Muammar Gaddafi in Libya and that we should overthrow the mullahs in Iran. Okay? He's been advocating, he's been John McCain, he's been Dick Cheney this whole time advocating that we fight this next war and this next war and this next war. They're right now, what was it, 3-4 weeks ago, they drew up war plans, including us, to go to war with Iran. It's only because Donald Trump, who seems to be willing to help them ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip, but said, that's a bridge too far for me. I'm not going to war here. And so thank God now we're in negotiations with the Iranians. But if you know this, then like, for you to be a non-interventionist America first, it has to at least come with, and hey, we should cut Israel off. And we should not listen to Benjamin Netanyahu. Like,
and this is interesting, too, because you're seeing rumors of a growing rift between Trump and Netanyahu, and it raises my eyebrow a little bit. I don't expect any U.S. funding to be withdrawn from Israel anytime soon, but apparently Trump negotiated the release of that recent American hostage that also was an IDF soldier and the stoppage of bombing in Yemen without Netanyahu's buy-in whatsoever. And if we're to believe that New York Times article, that Trump decided not to engage in a bombing campaign alongside Israel outside of the urgings of Mike Waltz, who he dismissed and was apparently saber-rattling for this idea. So we are seeing some palpable rejections of Israel controlling everything. Now, I don't expect that, again, to extend to full restraint when it comes to Israel. We're obviously funding them. Our government is. Shouldn't say we because I don't want to be complicit in that nonsense. But it is interesting.
I'm sorry. That's just totally reasonable.
Or Keir Starmer or any of them.
That's right. So, okay. Just take the position, which is the obvious one. We should stop funding what Israel's doing. We should stop propping them up. It's been quite a while. The country was created in 1948. It is 2025. You can either go at this alone or you can't. Come on.
And those are fair terms, by the way. I mean, those are the terms that the rest of us live our lives on.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
I mean, you make budget decisions in your home on the basis of what you can afford.
Yeah.
And there's some things you don't do, you know.
Yeah, there's not much we can afford. 35 trillion, almost 36 trillion in debt, by the way, especially subsidizing other countries halfway across the world. I don't care if it's Israel or Ukraine, whatever your sacred cow is, none of that is beneficial to the U.S. taxpayer.
You know, all of us mere mortals have those constrictions on our behavior. Like, they're the things I want to do, and they're the things that I think I'm capable of doing.
Yeah,
There's a
and
big difference.
And if I was sitting here and giving like these bravado, you know, infused speeches about all of the things that I can do, but really it relied on me borrowing the money from you in order to do it, you'd be like, hey, maybe stop giving this speech.
100%.
Maybe Benjamin Netanyahu should stop going to the UN and going, there's nowhere that Israel can't touch. Actually, there's lots of places Israel can't touch.
Oh, I know.
There's nowhere the U.S. can't touch.
I know.
Yeah, just assuming that he is Israel and Israel is the United States is, you know, at the root of so many foreign policy debacles that we've witnessed in the last few decades. Like Dave said, he lobbied on behalf of the U.S. changing the Iraqi regime, saying it would have positive reverberations in the region. Of course not. ISIS controls it now. and, lobbied for overthrow of the dictatorship in Libya. He said he wanted that model for Iran just a few weeks ago. Now there's open slave trading in Libya. He wants the same kind of regime change operations in Iran. Hopefully Trump stays out of this, does not listen to the neocons and Israel lobby that wants that.
I just think it's getting too out in the open, and I guess I fret too much in general, but I do worry now that it's like super obvious what's going on, that things will just devolve into like somewhere very ugly.
Well, that's why if you have any sense about you and you don't want to see things devolve into something ugly, that's why you want to make sure we don't get into another war now.
Totally agree.
It's unbelievable. It's remarkable. I'll tell you this, right? And I'm somebody who has really, been focused on this stuff for a long time. I do a show 4 days a week, and I'm always reading about this stuff, and I've done all the background reading. I know a lot about like the neoconservatives and what motivates them, what their worldview was. I will tell you the first thing that really surprised me, and I was genuinely, and I hate the neoconservatives. Like it's not that I don't understand how evil what they believe is. I was really surprised that the Ukraine thing, the Nazis in Ukraine didn't mess with them at all.
I was shocked.
I was really surprised. I know why they support all the wars they have supported. I thought that for the neoconservatives, real deal, not even neo-Nazis, Nazis, like the grandsons of, the Nazis who perpetrated the Holocaust in Ukraine, proudly wearing swastikas, tattoos, and waving flags. They threw their support behind the Azov battalion. This was very strange. Like, this was a line to me that I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. But, they said the exact opposite of what they said in 2017 and early 2018, when it was that there was a white supremacist hiding around every corner after Charlottesville, because Charlottesville was indicative of this mass movement of white supremacy that was going to overtake American society. They said that about fellow Americans, but then when it came to aiding this war against Russia, nuclear power, they were saying things like, well, this is just, an isolated military unit that has no semblance of power in Ukraine, or they're not really part of Ukraine's military in general, or, these are just negligible people that don't really represent what Ukraine stands for and stuff like that. You're seeing all the excuse making for those people versus, every American right winger is a potential white supremacist and terrorist, and they have to be stopped in America. The war propaganda was out of control. These people look completely past Azov just in pursuit of their empire building in Eastern Europe. It was crazy. But that's the neocons.
They'll really go that far. But I'll tell you, I am blown away by the fact that anybody who is out there shrieking about the rise in anti-Semitism is not wise enough to go, we cannot fight a war with Iran right now. Because if we get into a war right now that's clearly on Israel's behalf, after 25 years of terror wars, which were pretty clearly at least partially on it. I'm not going to go quite as far as like Jeffrey Sachs, although I get, he's an expert and I'm not. So I guess he's right and I'm not. But, I wouldn't quite say that, we outsourced our foreign policy to Israel. Like, there's a lot of truth to that statement. Was it Mearsheimer or Sachs who said, I view Benjamin Netanyahu as the worst U.S. president of the 21st century? It's pretty hilarious.
It's hard to debate that, by the way. That's what we've seen. And, Dave is so right here. If not for the Israel's quest to cleanse Gaza and the usage of anti-Semitism to apply to everyone or anything that someone doesn't like, what would cause even greater of a rise in anti-Semitism? It is a regime change operation in Iran on behalf of Israel when the U.S. public doesn't want it. That is what could cause anti-Semitism to explode. That's not what anyone wants to see. And there's other reasons to oppose a war with Iran. Obviously, when it comes to our debt and our situation in the Middle East, Iran can touch a lot of U.S. troops that are stationed in the Middle East with conventional weaponry that they possess. There's lots of U.S. bases around there. The solution to that, by the way, is to stop having U.S. bases around there and bring all the troops home. But short of that, I don't want American servicemen hurt because of these insane follies in the Middle East and an Iranian regime change operation or bombing campaign.
And there's a lot of truth to that, but it's not like 100% true. It's like, okay, but look, it's obviously, as I just said, Israel has been using its considerable influence to convince us to go to war in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, in all of these places. I think Yemen was more for the Saudis. Afghanistan was our own thing. But those wars, particularly Israel, was really on board with. And if we were to go get into a war with Iran right now, which will be a much bigger disaster than any of the previous terror wars, there's really no argument about that. Iran is just not a pushover like these other countries
like at all.
Yeah, that's right. They can take out a lot of our guys, and then what do we do after that? And
well, they could also destroy Israel with conventional weapons.
Yeah, there's a lot that they can do. But if we actually go to this war on behalf of Israel, I mean, what do you think that does to the level of anti-Semitism? Now, by the way, I'm not saying that's not the number one reason not to do it.
It's not.
That's like the number 6 reason not to do it. But for these people who are so concerned, they're so concerned about the existential threat to Israel. Well, here's the thing, right? Hamas, while they did pull off October 7th, which was by far the biggest attack Hamas has ever pulled off, Hamas was never an existential threat to Israel. But this actually is.
I agree.
What they are doing right now in some sick, self-fulfilling, prophecy, this actually is creating like an existential threat to them.
Completely agree. If I live there, and I think enough of Jerusalem that I would like to live in Jerusalem. I think it's the most incredible city in the world. I truly love it. But I would leave because I think they're, and I said this to an Israeli friend of mine recently, like I'm a little bit concerned. Not that it's my job to be concerned for your country. Lots of other people have that taken care of, but just as a bystander, it's like, whoa, this is not good.
Yeah.
And I didn't, he had no sense of what I was talking about. But I think the one area where I agree with Mark Levin is that Israel is really in danger. And I think it's people like Mark Levin who are putting Israel in danger, in my view.
Yeah, I think that's
maybe
right.
I'm wrong, but
no, I think that's right. I think just like I was saying, Douglas Murray, it's actually like, no, you're creating fertile ground for anti-Semitism by telling me I'm not allowed to criticize a guy with a Jewish last name. Well, in the same sense,
saying that you claim some Jewish ancestry.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But that's so...
Yeah, to Dave's reference, at one point in the debate, Douglas Murray seemed to imply that Dave Smith shouldn't criticize Paul Wolfowitz, who was the Deputy Secretary of Defense, because his last name was Jewish sounding, despite the atrocities that Wolfowitz advocated for and carried out in that position. It's just crazy.
Low. It's so low to debate like that.
It's really...
You're the famous debater?
Yeah, and like in an op-ed, after you lose a debate, or not even lose, after you refuse to debate and kind of beclown yourself, and then you're writing an op-ed and you don't take on one argument I made, but you do attack whether I'm really Jewish. By the way, as he'll criticize the just asking questions people. Well, what the hell is that? What the hell is
that's me, by the way. That's who they're talking about.
Right, I know. It's
so funny. The first time I heard that, I was like, wait, are you actually mad that I asked a question? Isn't anyone who's trying to shut down questions, isn't that person by definition on the wrong side?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because
like, what world are we living in? Well, I've lived too long. I should have died 10 years ago.
Well, what's so funny about it too is that there's all these different techniques for control, and one of them is just framing. Like how you frame a conversation really, like with the Israel thing, it's obvious, right? Like, look, I mean, however you feel about the conflict, the fact is that Israel has occupied Palestine since 1967. Okay, I know no, we disengaged in 2005. No, you didn't. But like, whatever. I'm not even like, I've had this debate enough times. I'm just saying this is the fact, is that Israel's occupied Palestine since 1967. That's the fact. And then the conversation, they go, does Israel have a right to defend itself? And you're like, well, that's a hell of a way to start. Like you're the ones doing the occupying and you want to start every debate with whether you have a right to defend yourself. Okay.
Yeah, Dave Smith's totally right here. That is how much of the foreign policy discussions is framed, not only in the corporate media, but also in the U.S. political establishment. It's like the default is not whether or not to bomb a country, it's which country to bomb. It's part of the Overton window that's been there in place, rigid for my entire lifetime, where it's always just a given to most people that the U.S. will be involved in some sort of bombing campaign or regime change operation or proxy war like we are in right now in Ukraine. It's just sort of a given to people. So when you frame it as if, you know, it's just guaranteed that we're going to bomb someone, it just disposes of dissident thought altogether. I say start with first principles, is just non-interventionism, no entangling alliances, no empire building, bases overseas, sanctions on other countries, trade with other powers. You know, John Quincy Adams, who I don't particularly think was a great president, but he did have a great foreign policy mentality. And he boasted when talking of America's best merits that America goes not abroad in search of monsters to destroy. When he was president, or it might have been before that. But in either case, that is the mentality I wish we had today. I think he'd be rolling in his grave to see how America has operated, especially in the last century. So, what do you think? Let me know down below. Do you think Dave Smith is right? What are the merits of non-interventionist foreign policy? Or do you think he gets something wrong? I'd love to hear from you in the comments section down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one.